Yo, I need you to hear this slowly. Iowa shot 49% from the field and 47% from 3. And still lost by 26. How does that even happen in college basketball? Because UConn didn't win with hot shooting. They won with a defense job system that turned efficient offense into 26 turnovers, and then cashed those mistakes into a 41-9 destruction and points off turnovers. That's the game. That's the story. And tonight, we're ranking UConn's bench by defense job tiers, because every single sub had a specific assignment in the chaos. Let's set the table with one brutal fact. UConn forced 26 turnovers and got 17 steals, and they converted that into 41 points off turnovers. Now here's the crazy part. UConn got out a rebounded 34-25. In most games, that's a red alert. That's how you get punished. That's how you lose on second chances. But not when you're running a system that basically says, you can rebound all you want if you're turning it over before you can even shoot. And Iowa's coach John Jensen basically confirmed it after the game. Most teams relax once you cross half court. UConn gets more intense. So this wasn't random gambling. This was organized disruption, pressure, lanes, traps, quick decisions, and instant punishment. All right, now let's tier the bench, because the bench wasn't just energy. The bench was labor division, jobs. Start at the foundation, the unglamorous stuff, the if this breaks the whole defense collapses stuff. Jana El Alfie gave you 8 minutes. Ayanna Patterson gave you 3 minutes. Combined, efficient little touches, 1 of 2 each, a couple points, and here's the key, 0 turnovers. And you might be thinking, no steals, no blocks? What did they even do? They did the job. The job is hold the shape. When the guards are flying around like sharks and passing lanes are getting jumped, the paint can turn into a mess if your backline panics. Tier 4 players don't chase highlights. They prevent breakdowns. They keep the structure intact while chaos is happening right in front of them. They're the reason the pressure doesn't turn into easy layups the other way. And against Iowa, that was enough. Because the perimeter pressure was so dominant that the interior didn't need to go superhero mode. But now, if Tier 4 is don't let the building collapse, Tier 3 is the moment that the building collapses for the other team. And you collect the insurance money. This is the role that wins tournament games, when the opponent finally survives the initial wave. But not the second wave. Ali Zibel played 10 minutes and gave you 7 points on 2 of 4, plus 1 3 on 2 attempts. And I know what some people do with that. Only 10 minutes. No, this is a specialist role, because her points weren't random. They were created by the defense. Think about it like this. When UConn forces a turnover, the defense doesn't just steal the ball. It steals organization. It steals matchups. It steals communication. So when the scramble happens, Zebel's job is simple. Punish it before the opponent resets. There's a perfect sequence that defines her tier. Fisher pressure, scramble, kick ahead, transition 3. That's the blueprint. Defense creates panic, spacer converts panic into points. She doesn't need 25 minutes to matter. She needs 3-5 possessions where the opponent is still dizzy. Okay, so Tier 3 is cash the chaos. Tier 2 is create chaos in short, violent bursts. Let's talk about the box score trap. Kaylee Heckel, 3 minutes. Kellis Fisher, 7 minutes. No points, no steals in this game. And somebody will say, so they didn't do anything. Wrong lens. Tier 2 players are tempo injectors. They're not here to rack up a stat line every night. They're here to do one thing. Raise the discomfort level immediately for 3 to 5 minutes, so the game never cools down when the starters sit. Their job is the threat of pressure, the constant harassment, the you can't breathe energy. And you've already seen what that looks like when it hits. Heckel had a game earlier this season where she popped for 6 steals in limited minutes. That's her DNA. And in this Iowa game, Fisher still shows her functional purpose. She helps trigger the kind of possession that ends with a Zebel shot. This tier isn't about volume. It's about keeping the thermostat on chaos while the lineup rotates. Now we get to Tier 1, the top of the pyramid, because there's one bench player who didn't just participate in the defense. She organized it. She translated steals into offense. She made chaos productive. This is the Tier 1 definition. You don't just pressure the opponent. You turn that pressure into points with structure. Blanca Quinones in 21 minutes, 10 points on 4 or 5 shooting, 5 assists, and 4 Bueckers steals. That's not a bench cameo. That's a role statement, because the steals aren't the whole story. The 5 assists are the tell. A lot of players can gamble and get a steal. Tier 1 players can do that. And then immediately become the calm brain that says, okay, now we run. She wasn't just taking the ball. She was quarterbacking the aftermath. And the best part, controlled aggression. She had only 2 turnovers while playing in the highest risk role on the court, passing lanes, pressure windows, transition decisions. That's why she's Tier 1. She's disruption plus organization. She's the bench piece that lets UConn stay UConn even when the starters sit. Now, none of these bench roles work unless the starters set the tone like a floodlight, because the starters didn't just score, they hunted. Sarah Strong, 23 points and 6 steals. AZ Fudd, 27 points, 5 threes, and 4 steals. Together, they should produce 10 of UConn's 17 steals. So when your stars are winning the passing lanes like that, your bench doesn't have to be everything. Your bench can be jobs, specialists, task forces. And you also got that stabilizing presence. Sarah Williams gave you 3 blocks, 7 points, and 0 turnovers in 22 minutes. That's the glue that keeps the system clean. So the bench tier list isn't random. It's permission. The starters create the environment, then the bench executes the assignments. This is the lesson that should scare everybody else. Iowa had real shot making. Hanna Stuelka, 17 points on 8 of 11. That's 73%. But also 4 turnovers. Chizadi Wright, 16 points with 4 threes in 18 minutes. And you could feel the pressure tax in real time. Quick hooks, rush decisions, possessions that ended before they even started. So Iowa's efficiency didn't save them because the game wasn't about efficiency. It was about possession ownership. If you lose the ball 26 times, your shooting percentages become a cute story you tell yourself after the game. And that's how you get a 26-point result, even when the jumpers are falling. So here's the argument that matters going forward. If you're building a tournament rotation, what scales better? Extra shooting or extra disruption? This Iowa game screams the answer. Disruption, because Iowa shot well and still got blasted. What they needed wasn't more shot making, they needed fewer turnovers. That's why Queen Inez is Tier 1. Her disruption multiplies the system. But here's the twist. Against the truly elite teams, the ones that only cough it up 14, 16 times, the equation changes. That's when Zebel's Tier 3 role becomes a dagger role. If you only get a handful of scramble chances, you must convert them. So the best bench in March is the one that can do both. Create the chaos and cash the chaos. So when you look back at 90-64, you'll remember the stars. Fudd's 27, Strong's 23. But the real dynasty signal, the bench wasn't random minutes. It was a defense job roster. 6 players, 6 assignments, 1 identity. Turn your offense into panic. Now I want you to jump in the comments with this. Which bench role matters most in March? Tier 1 chaos creation or Tier 3 scramble shooting? And if you had to pick one bench player to be the first sub you trust in a tight Elite 8 game, who is it and why?